Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review of The Wicked Deep by Shea Ernshaw. This is a standalone YA paranormal book, I guess you could say. It takes place in a small town in Oregon, and in this town, 200 years ago, there were 3 sisters that were drowned as witches, and now every year, every summer since that happened, these girls supposedly come back and inhabit the bodies of 3 girls and start drowning boys in the ocean as kind of their revenge on the town. And when this book starts, that time of the year is about to happen, and we follow a teenage girl in that town as all of this is going on. So this is one of the books that I read this month for my witchy reads. This year I wanted to read all of the witch books that I had on my shelf, and this just reminded me of Hocus Pocus, the movie, and that definitely is what I got and the vibes that I got throughout, so I was very satisfied with that reading experience. First off, we'll talk about the world building. This is a small, sleepy town on the coast, and you definitely can feel that. There's also this element that I wasn't expecting necessarily of magical realism. It had that feel to it. Yes, it's about witches and these witches supposedly coming back, but there's other elements of kind of magic around the corner mixed in. It's not a full-blown magical realism or fabulism story by any means, but it has those hints of magic throughout as well. As far as our characters, I liked our characters. I found our main character very relatable as this teenage girl who's living in this small town who feels kind of stuck in this small town at times, but also has a lot of affection for it. She also is kind of resigned to the fact that every year this happens, and the town is kind of resigned to that, even though that doesn't quite make sense. So there is a level of suspension of disbelief with this book that I feel like you just kind of get with contemporary witch books, that you just have to kind of be okay, this is what's happening and I'm sort of just gonna roll with it, and that's kind of how I felt about the characters as well. The characters didn't blow me away by any means. They were characters that I felt fit really well into the story. There is kind of a romance element of this as well, and that I just kind of felt neither here nor there about. I was just very neutral about it. I didn't hate it. I kind of saw it coming, and I didn't love it either. What was fun is there were some flashbacks throughout to the time period that the witches were living in and kind of their experiences, and I enjoyed seeing their history and kind of what led to everything from their end as well. I'm not going to be doing any kind of discussion video on this book, but I will say that there is some borderline consent problems happening with this that I'm not quite sure you can get into without being spoilery, but if you ever feel just a little about any kind of consent stuff, I wouldn't say it's anything full-blown sexual assault, but there are some things about this story that makes the lines of consent a little bit blurred that the narrative doesn't really address. Lastly, then we talk about the plot. Like I mentioned earlier, there were things about this that were just very predictable. I wanted a Hocus Pocus-y type story, and I feel like I got that. So there were a lot of things that were predictable and just things you could see coming, but ultimately I didn't mind that at all. That did not detract from the book for me in any way. It's what I wanted out of this story. So even though I saw it coming, even though it wasn't a ton of twists and turns or anything really unexpected, I found that kind of comforting and soothing, and so for that, it was a very quick read. It wasn't anything that blew me away, but I think it's a really good read for this time of year, and if you want a kind of witchy story and you know what you want, that's what you're going to get with this. I gave The Wicked Deep 3.5 out of 5 stars. Solid witchy read for the fall time of year. So comment below, let me know what you thought of The Wicked Deep, and if you have any other witchy recommendations for me that are this kind of just fun, predictable witch book. Sometimes you just want that in October. That's just what I want, and that's kind of what I'm reading this month. But I need some for next year because I'll have read all of my witchy books by the end of this month. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!